You've been listening to the True Idaho News Podcast. Unfiltered news and opinion for the citizens of Idaho. Get more true news by visiting trueidahonews.com. If you'd like to support this podcast, visit trueidahonews.com/support. Thanks for listening.
Good morning, everyone. Shane Class here with True Idaho News, and my guest today is Hilber Nelson. How are you doing this morning, Hilber?
Doing great. Nice to see you, Shane.
And it's been a little while. We got to visit a little bit at the wedding, but of course, with so many people out there, it was just kind of a quick "Hi, how are you?" But it's always a pleasure when we get a chance to visit a little bit. For those that don't know Hilber, he is a licensed clinical social worker. He's also a board member at Magic Valley Liberty Alliance, expanding freedom and holding the government accountable in the Magic Valley area of Idaho. And you're also an artist, and you've got quite a few. I've seen some of your political artwork, and it's absolutely wonderful. So what have you been up to, Hilber? Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you think we need to know.
Well, I'm semi-retired right now in counseling. But I work with primarily people who have experienced severe trauma, abuse, abandonment, depression, and anxiety. Those are the two kind of common colds of mental health counseling. So I work a lot with that. So when you called me up to talk about the shooter incident, I was intrigued, did a little bit of research on what some of the friends or others have observed about Wes Rowley, and then also looked at how the parents responded and a grandparent, et cetera, because I have in my own counseling practice people who have had others, loved ones, complete suicides or just go off the deep end and no one really saw it coming. So there's that. And then I have a studio here at my house and I do abstract art. So if you want to look me up, you can find me on Saatchi Art and then type in my name and you'll see all of my abstract mid-century modern paintings that I do kind of for my own therapy in the mornings, which I really enjoy. A lot of fun. So that's what keeps me off the streets of Twin Falls, Idaho these days, plus all my work with Magic Valley Liberty Alliance and all the things that we're gearing up for the 2026 May primary election coming up. It'll be here before you know it. Is 10 months away. So yeah, plenty to do.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So that's upcoming with Glenita Zeiderveld. They have, excuse me, that's the 27th of September. Just kind of pulling up some info on it real quick. Looks like they're going to have some pretty high-ranking folks from Idaho out there. Raul Labrador is going to be a guest. I know that they've got us I'm going to be out there. We're setting up the sound system, and later in the evening we'll do a little karaoke after they get everything wound down and food. My wife is a chef, and she's going to be doing some burrito tacos, which you don't want to miss those. So, and that's open to the public. So be looking for that and further announcements on it. But it's going to be a good day.
Yep.
The last couple of years have always been fun.
Lots of fun. There's going to be karaoke. I wonder who's running that.
Yeah. No, we have Music Monkey. We DJ weddings and events. Karaoke isn't something that we normally do, but I do. I enjoy it. So we have the karaoke program. We have all the great songs. So it's
MPLA will have a booth there, and Dr. Ryan Cole. You don't want to miss him. He and Leslie Manukian. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with her, but those are pretty big speakers to be coming to a backyard bash. They alone will be a big draw, so you don't want to miss that. Plus, it's a great time to see everybody, get to know what's going on.
I brought up just so everybody can see, so so you can all see some of his abstract artwork here on SaatchiArt.com. Oh,
yeah, and you want to go to when you click on it, click on a piece. You can either buy a print of any size you want, or you can buy the original. Now, see that little red button? It says add to cart. You want to make sure you push that button.
Yeah, on all of them.
That's right. All of them. Yes. Go to a good cause. They'll go to MVLA. Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about up north, what happened and the shooting up there. I mean, it was a tragic event. I think is my heart goes out to the firemen and those that he shot. There were two died. I think one of them still fighting for his life in the hospital. But I think kind of goes, everybody gets really mad and angry, and rightfully so, at the person who committed the violence. But you have to ask, what possesses a 20-year-old to go down that path?
Yeah. And what we don't have here probably is all the story. It's probably still developing. Normally in a shooter, you'll see a manifesto of some kind on their TikTok or Instagram. So we don't have a motive officially. All we know is he was just a few bits and pieces. And here's what I found, Shane, as I was looking. They found his body next to his gun. He was living in a van for a while. He had been working in his father's tree service. Friends saw some swastikas and pictures of guns in notebooks. He was kind of a loner. If you look at pictures of him, he doesn't look like a happy kid. But that's just a snapshot. So some were kind of scared of him. He doesn't seem to have a record of being mixed up in a gang or a cult of any kind. He didn't seem to hail from anyone in particular. There's one shot of him wearing military garb up close. Then you hear about his grandfather saying he wanted to be in the tree service, and so on and so forth. So he always was obsessed with guns. He listened to heavy metal bands, etc. So as I'm looking at it from a mental health standpoint, are those the telltale signs of a shooter? No. But are they perhaps risk factors? And when we say risk factors, we don't mean in mental health a predictor. Like you couldn't put those in an algorithm or do a Tom Cruise, what do you call that? Minority Report.
Yeah.
And say, yeah, we need to put him in jail now because he's going to do it. Absolutely not. So these are just things that you see now, and you don't necessarily connect these dots until after something like this has happened. You just see individual pieces. If you're his friend, you probably wouldn't have seen any of this coming. So also then you look at the parents and you don't hear things like a divorce or psychiatric meds or being treated for a mental health condition or any other kinds of conditions that might lead to being a loner. You hear in their statements a sincere, heartfelt condolences and shock. So there you have it. So how do you know something like that's going to happen?
How do you wrap it? Yeah.
I've got a couple just things to say about it from my own perspective. So yes, I've worked with parents who found out their child was being molested by a neighbor, or a parent whose child completed a suicide, and it's been a couple years. And they usually go along like this. Why didn't I see this? If I was a real loving mom, I would have seen this and it never would have happened. So there must be something wrong with me. And so now they're beating themselves up over and over and over. So tremendous guilt and grief, sadness, and they need some help with that. So I can only imagine what Wes Rawley's parents are going through right now. And Coeur d'Alene is still kind of a small community. So I'll bet they're known by a lot of people at a restaurant or a church or a civic club of some kind. And they've got this now to deal with on top of everything else while they bury their 20-year-old son. So there is that part of it. As far as he goes, who knows? I couldn't even begin to give you any like a counselor's assessment of things other than just some of those signs that you see there.
Yeah. A little bit of the information that came across, it looks like the mom and the dad had divorced several years ago and she remarried, and they were in Arizona. The dad had started a archery club that late. I guess the mom is a competition archery shooter. And so he started an archery club and then eventually sold that club and went to work for a company that sells archery related equipment. And so he's been off traveling doing that. And then the father is the one that lives here in Idaho. And it sounds like something happened. And then they sent the kid to Idaho, West Idaho, to live with the dad. Dad owned a tree climbing company where they would top trees and do things for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And something happened there. I don't know what happened there. He doesn't have that anymore. And then he works at a Harley Davidson shop. Excuse me. So that's kind of the background that I was able to dig up, just that I know. Now that's the facts. Outside of that, there's been a little bit of conjecture. I think it's pretty reliable information that the dad and the mom, during the divorce, there was something that was rough going on there. And it sounds like she had to get a no contact order against the father, which she also placed against him being able to see Wes for a period of time. The courts lifted that because there was really no evidence that there was that whatever she said he was doing. Apparently the dad was in Afghanistan, served in Afghanistan for a while, and then he apparently somewhere in the arguments she alleged that he had threatened to camp outside of her house with a sniper rifle. And alleged that, and that's kind of the thing. I mean, we've all heard these kind of things. Well, he said this. People say things in the heat of the moment, so you don't know if that's really true or not. But that was one of the things alleged that he was going to burn the house down. So those were a couple of things that were alleged, but it sounds like nothing really came of that. But looking through their Facebook feeds, what you see is you see pictures. There was a post not long ago of our mom talking about how proud she was of him and loved him, the son.
Yeah.
You saw photos of the dad as with the son as a baby, smiling, and just absolutely lots of them. In fact, the dad seems like a decent guy from what I could drag up. He's even got his profile pictures in support of the firemen that were lost in the incident. So, that's so. This is what we do, right? We dig in, we try to find out everything we can about a situation. Then you hear all sorts of wild rumors going around, and I'm going to stay away from the rumor mill. But there's nothing there that I'm not a professional, but there's nothing that I can find that would say, wow, there's, obviously red flags going on here.
There you go.
It's just a shock.
Yeah, it is a shock. And if you look at some of the main characteristics of shooters, things that I see, get a mental health background, usually a mental health issue, or one that's just been untreated because of childhood trauma or some kind of grievance, or there was bullying going on, or they themselves were mentally unstable from a number of things. Psychiatric medications, we never really seem to hear about that, especially from those that want to control guns. It's always the gun did it. But here, what about the finger that pulled the trigger? What was the finger thinking? And mental health, psychiatric medications can play a role. You don't see any identification with attackers or assassin type groups per se with this young man. Maybe a little bit of a warrior mentality, given that one photo of him wearing what looks like military garb and a helmet of some kind. But he did have weapons with him. But hey, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah. And
you don't hear about a stockpile of things with him. We didn't hear that there were a lot of rifles in the van nearby with some kind of first-rate standoff thing going on. So there isn't any of that.
So shifting gears a little bit towards what we do know and what is in your wheelhouse, and this is what I want to talk about a little bit for those that go through these things. We see this happening all across the nation. We see acts of violence. We see kids that are perpetrating these acts of violence, mass shootings. Sometimes several. I want to be careful how I say this. Not several, but There were 3 or 4 of those as you look through history. I mean, they do have some mental illness. You see some trans individuals that were involved as those mass shooters. You see those kinds of things. But shifting the focus to what we do know, we have a community up north and a community in Arizona that likely knew the boy. You got up north, you have the families of the firemen. What can the families be doing right now to help? What can the community be doing to help the family? This is the big problem. I know I had a little sister. She was 23 years old, 6-7 years ago, committed suicide. And what you were talking about, you go through those. I could have done something, should have done something, could have been there. What could we have done more? We went through all those emotions. I know those emotions, and then there were the people that wanted to reach out and help, but some of them were more. It was more of an irritant at the time. It was like, hey, I just want to be left alone a little bit right now. And then there were others that you just shifts to periods of time where you long for somebody to say something that would make it feel better. From your professional standpoint, what's the best thing the community can be doing right now?
Well, you saw a little bit of it already. I think the community in Coeur d'Alene came out with waving flags and having maybe a parade isn't the right word, but the firefighters came out with their trucks and there was community support for the firefighters. So that's a good thing to hear that the community can come out and rally. What we didn't see was the protesters marching up and down and doing a procession against the parents' home. You don't see any of that. So that's a blessing to hear that we're blaming the parents or somehow it's their fault. On a more private level, let's just say more of their inner circle, if they are attending a church, the best thing that church and pastor could do is take a non-blaming stance and just grieve with them and avoid the usual cliche comments about God, about family, about he's in a better place now. Those kinds of things. These are the complaints I hear from my clients who are grieving, is well-intentioned comments. And it comes from a place of, I just don't know what to say. So I'm going to think of something, and then they'll just come out and say that. And it's just not all that helpful to them. The other thing that's more helpful is just being present. So this sounds cliche to say, but casseroles, showing up with food, showing up, can I help you with something? If that's a family that has younger kids and they need to be driven to school, or they're just too wiped out to mow their lawn, look for things that show they're just not functioning that well. Taking them out individually, just kind of microing down to, say, his buddies and her friends. If he has a group of men that he hangs out with, they might say, let's go golfing when you're ready. Let's just do that and not try to come and be the counselor, just hang out with them. And same thing with her friends. That would be tremendously helpful. The other thing they would probably need to do when they're ready, after the shock has died down a little bit, is if they need to get medications for some depression and anxiety to get them through that as a temporary, that's what they were really meant for. Those medications were never meant for long term. And that's where you can get into troubles with that. And going to see a counselor when you're ready to talk about it and kind of do the deep dive of the inner criticisms that are bound to happen. Why didn't I see this? I'm a bad parent. I failed. My son would be alive if only I had. And then you just fill in the litany of blanks that can oftentimes come with that. The nice thing about therapy that I oftentimes get not complimented directly to me, but more like this. This is the only place I can come to where it's safe. I got a lot of family members who want to talk to me about stuff, but then they kind of tell me how to think. They tell me what I need to do. They're full of advice. I know they care, but that's not what I need. So creating that safe space, either maybe with your pastor. If your pastor is capable of doing that with pastoral counseling, I would also advise doing that and developing a therapeutic relationship with them. What I don't recommend doing is trying to divert all of the negative stuff that you're feeling and pour it into work, exercise, or food, or busyness, or workaholism at your business. Don't do that to yourself, because what's going on there is you're just it's called sublimation, where you're taking an issue that you have and you're just kind of putting it into something that's a little more maybe socially acceptable, but you're not really processing what's happening. It's still there and just floating around. It will come back to bite, and so you do need to deal with those kinds of emotions at some point. So
That
those are the
tends to
first
be
things I
my
would say. Yeah.
that tends to be my go-to when there's some kind of a tragedy, loss of my biological
Oh yeah.
father when he died.
Yeah.
I dove into, okay, I got to be the one to put together the funeral. I've got to be the one to do this. I've got to
Yeah.
be the one to do that. But I have learned
Yeah.
about myself as I know I've got a short period of time that I have a lot of those things that have to be done. But
Right.
I set aside 2 to 3 days that I gave myself permission to grieve on those days.
Excellent. Yeah,
That was kind of
actually
my
that's a great idea. I've got
so that at least
to.
I could get through the stuff that had to be focused on. But I also know that stuff will come back around and bite you in the butt and catch you off guard while you're somewhere. You might be at work. You might be an argument with my wife. It could be anything that could set you off if you don't set aside that time to just deal with it.
Exactly. There's two types of grievers after a tragedy has happened. There's the executive griever. This is the style. It's, I guess it's a actually it has a lot. All the styles have different assets to it, but this is the one that's going to be calling people, deciding what the flowers are going to be, what's the potluck going to be, who's going to be speaking. They're on it. They're getting stuff done. And a lot of times people say, "Please do it. I'm a mess. I can't do it." But what they're doing is they're postponing it. They're suspending everything. So they have to do life. So families who have small children and a tragedy happens, mom and dad still have to get up every day and do life. So a lot of times my clients are the ones where, well, I kept doing life and I kind of forgot to deal with the car accident and I never dealt with it. And so every year around this time, guess what comes up? So now we're working on it. And they still have lots to do. They still have small kids. So that's the executive type. And then the more intuitive is we're feeling our emotions now. We're going down memory lane now. We're asking the hard questions now. We're doing all the grieving now. And because of that, they can be not very much in the helpful zone of putting together the funeral, but they're kind of doing their work now. Then the other thing I should have mentioned too is what's helpful is understand that when it comes to grief, the rule is there really are no rules. And a lot of times my clients are saying, shouldn't I be crying more right now? Or how come I'm feeling nothing? I love my wife. And they're really confused by their grieving style. So we go through that a little bit more about how people process information that is just overwhelming while they're trying to do life. And then a little bit longer down the road, and I hope and pray this family will do that there will be things they will do to honor the memory of their son. So that's all kinds of things. So, for example, if you look at moms who lost sons or daughters to repeated drunk drivers, what did they do? They formed Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. They started foundations. So that's very redemptive. It's transformational. It's productive. They meet other people who've gone through the same thing. That's another piece that would be helpful to them, is if there is such a thing as working with other families who have lost children to this. I don't know if there is such a group, but connecting people doing where there's, well, I'll put it this way, there's a lot of podcasts about various kinds of things. So people can hop online and get involved in productive chats where they need to do that, to just be around people who get it and have been there and done that and have survived that. So being around survivors. And then back to redemptive kinds of things. So if this son had special interests or was belonging to a certain group, and they want to honor their son's memory, they can create a foundation. You hear about that all the time. Or contributing to something that would be supportive of the community down the road is another thing I'll see. And something really simple, like one family member took their grandpa's coat, the one that he always kept on a coat rack, and they had it bronzed. Now they did that because it reminded everybody on their way out the door, this was Grandpa's farm. He started it, and they just wanted to keep it there. And for them, it was like a little bit like a shrine, a nice way to remember. And other cultures will have days where they honor the dead in a memorial type fashion, like we have one called Memorial Day. And we set aside that because we need a place to go to honor people who have sacrificed their lives, or we love them, and we want to put flowers on their grave, and we might want to talk to them. We want to remember them. We want to get together with our other family members who also love them. That's very comforting. And then have a meal and such. So that's what Memorial Day is for us on a national level, and on an individual level. On this day now that will come up for them, along with the first birthday, the first Christmas, the first, all the dates. This is their first summer without him. This is their first 4th of July without him. These are important dates to learn how to do without their son, how to get through that. So those are things they're going to have to work through. So that first couple of years is pretty rough when you're learning how to live without, and you're building new traditions. So those new traditions can be helpful. So I've had clients say, on my dad's birthday, I grab 2 lawn chairs, 2 fishing poles, and 2 bologna sandwiches, and we go to Dad's favorite fishing spot, and I put his fishing basket on his lawn chair, and I'm going fishing with Dad. And that's very comforting to that client. Or for others, it's we got all of his pictures or his clock collection, and we put it in the dining room table, and we have it. Or we get out, we eat his favorite meal, and we eat that. And there's his urn on the fireplace mantle.
It's
telling jokes about Dad. So everyone's got their own traditions.
It's interesting. You mentioned starting foundations. My last name Class, Polly Class was a cousin, and Mark Class, her dad, with I don't know if you remember the whole Polly Class abduction that happened. I guess, it's probably been 30 years or more now. But the Polly Class Foundation was started. Her dad, Mark, started that right after that. My dad, Kelly Class, he was in radio for 43 years. If you're in the Magic Valley, you may have heard of him. But they talked quite a bit after that, and that was one of the things that they did is they started the Polly Class Foundation, which then eventually they met with the family of Amber, and they started the Amber Alert. And so that whole case kind of spiraled forward into that, and that was a result of a horrible incident. But in this case, and this is what strikes me, the parents now, I can't imagine. I know what it's like to lose somebody. I know what it's like to have somebody lost to suicide. I know what it's like to lose somebody just to an accident. But in this case, the family also has to deal with the fact that their son murdered firemen, lured them in intentionally, lured them in so that he could commit violence. That's what it appears, that was intentional when he set those fires. So now you're going to have a portion of the community that's looking at them at the family with hate.
Yep.
How do you deal with that?
Yep. I've never had a client come in and say, I've got people on my tail. I have a cross burning on my lawn, or I've had my tire slashed, or any retaliation against them. So that's outside my wheelhouse. But this is again where the inner circle of whoever is their support system, back to church, pastor, civic group, extended family members come in. And also if it were me, I'd be boning up on what I need to do legally to protect myself. If I am being stalked, what are my rights? Things like that. I would be looking at them as they come, but how do you predict what's going to happen? You just can't. Yeah. So right now it's very soon. I don't know that there's actually been a funeral service. Do you know, Shane, if he's...
No, I don't. So not that I'm aware of, not yet.
Yeah. First things first, get through that.
I think they're still trying to do all of the different. I mean, they're doing the autopsies and they're doing everything.
Yeah.
Because they're fairly certain that he committed suicide, but of course they're still going to do the autopsy and they're still going to look at all the facts of the case. So I imagine it'll be a little while before they'll even let him have the body.
What we could say is it's a developing story, so more will come out, and that will kind of fill in a little more of the puzzle pieces on this. But let's hope and pray that this Coeur d'Alene doesn't go down that path. It's completely unproductive and only adds more fuel to the fire, spreads whatever evil intent Wes had. It just adds to it, and doesn't take care of everything. It was Martin Luther King said that hate can never get rid of hate. Only love can do that.
Yeah.
So I hope this community will rally around their true colors will shine, and this will be a community that doesn't go there. And if there are a few bad actors that want to get in there and start a fight, they'll be putting an end to that kind of thing.
What I'm seeing more of right now is the other speculation. You have folks, this has suddenly become political, right? Now you have a whole bunch of people that are on social media, and I'm seeing it over and over and over again from both sides. You have those on the left that are saying, "Oh, he had MAGA parents," and so this is just another case that it's that those evil MAGA people, because there's a picture on social media of the mom and the dad, the stepdad wearing their MAGA hats, and so you have that side of it that are trying to blame this on them being MAGA kind of people, and then you have on the other side you've got the conservatives that are looking and saying, oh, well, he was a furry and he was trans and all of this other kind of stuff, which I can't find any kind of basis for, but you're seeing that stuff coming out from the other side. And then you see a lot of the conspiracy theories that are coming out because they only found the one body. So you have around Idaho, I've seen some of our Idaho politicians even that are, well, there's no way. At first they said that their shots were coming from multiple angles, and so obviously there's got to be some kind of a conspiracy there. Well, they found him with a shotgun, but they said that he was sniping. Well, I got an answer for that one for those that are watching on that. It was a shotgun that was loaded with 12 gauge rifled slugs. So the rifled slugs have grooves in them that will, in a smooth bore shotgun, that will cause the bullet to spin so that it can track it. You can shoot accurately at 100 to 150 yards. So there's your answer for those guys. But I mean, why do people do this? I mean, do you have an answer for that? I mean, everybody starts jumping into conspiracy theories and blame and thought.
Back to the MAGA people, and so forth. We're also seeing the media or those who have a political axe to grind to put a story into a box to serve a narrative they want to push out there. Christian nationalists is sort of the latest entry into that, where if you are patriotic and you're white, you go to a church, you're suddenly an evil Christian nationalist. Okay, so there's people out there that want to spin the story for those purposes to continue perpetuating an agenda. It's really divisive. It can mischaracterize people. You see racist folks trying to do the same thing, putting someone in a box because they're white or they're male or what have you. So I know from my own work with MBLA, and I do a lot of used to do a lot of the media on it. We have others helping us with that. We see that happening all the time, that MAGA is, we're the evil MAGA people, and we're Christian nationalists, and we don't care about migrants, and we want to take Medicare money away from grandma, and we want to sell off all Idaho land and blah, blah, blah. So they just take a little bit of a nugget of something and then just spin it to create the story that they really want to. And by putting people in boxes, that's a convenient way of dismissing them or creating, conflicts that don't exist, or to push an agenda. So there's going to be that. And I think social media by its nature, Shane, perpetuates this, where people can say things and write things that they would never say publicly in front of a bunch of other people, but they'll do it. because now they've got themselves a platform, they got a microphone, and they need content. So they're going to do that. And also it can be a type of virtue signaling. So if I'm on a particular camp and this story breaks, and I want to let all my comrades in arms know what a good comrade I am, then I'm going to perpetuate that. And it's like the people they own Learjets, but they are against global warming, and so they fly to Davos and other places and to then lecture the rest of us about how we need to turn off our gas stoves. It's the same kind of thing. It's virtue signaling is meaningless, but it perpetuates a narrative they want, and it puts them in the camp that they want to belong to.
So in this case, we don't know enough about it to know if there were any red flags or not. We only know what's actually out there in the public because it's really soon. I mean, this just happened. But what are some of the things that parents can be watching for that their kid might be approaching outward violence like this? Yeah. What are some of those indicators for a parent? And then also, if they see those types of things, what's the best method of getting help? And how do you, especially let's say that they're 20 years old, they're not under your control anymore. What are some things that parents can do?
I can speak to some things I've gone over with parents who are worried about their child's state of being, and seeing shifts in their personality, so forth. And one of the bigger telltale signs is too much screen time, curled up on their bed, on their phone. And you can see, for example, the big fight going on now between parents and their children on trying to regulate too much screen time. And the reason for that oftentimes is it has an addictive quality to it. I'm reading, for example, articles on how the algorithms on the feed for Facebook and Instagram are customizing themselves to what you land on, how long you land on a feed, or how quickly you scroll off like that. So it's creating those dopamine hits, reward after reward after reward. That's why Mark Zuckerberg called them your Facebook friends. They're not really your friends or Instagram followers. So you noticed on the articles that they went to some of his TikTok sites. So if mom and dad had been, and maybe they knew about him, they looked at some of that and noted along with it other things, because in and of itself, that may not be a thing, but more and more time curled up in her bed or alone, watching, gaming, giving up time for normal activities, becoming more and more of a loner, changes in personality, drop in grades, new sets of friends, different kinds of dress that looks a little darker, and attitudes at home, not following through on chores. What's happening to our kid? Where are they going? Well, some of that can also just be good old-fashioned teenager-itis. And I remember as a parent going, "Oh, there's some alien parasite happened to my kids, and I don't recognize them anymore." So there is some of that. So you don't want to overdo. But another thing that parents can do is regulate how much screen time they have. Make it a privilege, not a right. And what's happened, unfortunately, and every parent complains about this, but I don't know how many parents are really doing much about it, but keeping the phone away or the tablet. And after you've done your chores, we're setting a timer and you get this much time with it. So I'm talking now about kids who are, younger and not Wes Raleigh's age. He's 20, he's out of the house by now. But it is a factor. And the addictive qualities and the sophistication of social media is getting darker. We know that the average age a young boy will first come in contact with pornography is 11 years old. It's because of the predatory nature of how Pornhub works and the rest of them. So maybe social media is becoming more and more of a thing, especially when you add AI into it, where who do we really know who we're talking to? Are we talking to a bot that knows how to mimic this kind of thing. So that's why I point to social media, but I wanted to say one more time, drop in grades, changes in clothing, changes in friends. And that also can be the result of trauma as well. So we've seen that before where parents coming says, I found out that this happened to my daughter. And that's when I started to realize before I realized what was going on, that she was wetting the bed, that this was happening. Her friends all changed. She was in her room. She was moody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So sudden changes in behavior, dress, social, and I'd really watch the social media intake.
You touched on something that it is that dopamine drip, and it is extremely addictive. Even as parents, we know this. You find yourself you flip over to, you hear that little ding. I've turned notifications off on my social media, so
Yep.
I don't hear that ding, because that makes you want to look at it every day. So I just turn those
Yep.
off, so that it's at least a conscious choice when I pick it up
Yes.
and decide to go over to social media and look at it. But you've got a kid that's hooked on this. Is it
Yeah.
can you just immediately go to, kind of like an alcoholic? It's like, okay, well, you're going to cold turkey, you're done. Or do they need to kind of wean the kid off of that to a more healthy? What's the best way for parents to deal with that? Because you're going to get some backlash if you start saying, okay, you don't get your phone all day long. You get it for an hour in the morning, you get it out for it, or whatever that time might be.
Yep.
How do parents navigate that? I was always kind of I'll just say it. I was a hard ass parent that, well, I'm dad, and so you're just going to do what I tell you to. But, but I know, looking back, that can be a little, I maybe was a little rough, but, what's the best way for a parent to transition that over?
Yep. So first of all, it depends on the age. And also it depends on how, shall we just say, for quick reference, how addicted they seem to be. So if a kid is constantly springing back, and the same is true for gaming, they just got to get back to Call of Duty, get back to it. They forget the amount of time they have. They're not getting stuff done. Sitting down with your kid and saying, these are the priorities as a family member. These are what you're supposed to be doing in school or your job or at home. They're not getting done, so we're going to ration it. And if the child is at an age where you can come up with a game plan and they buy into it, they sign on the dotted line, and that contract is posted on the refrigerator door, that's a win-win for both of them, for you and for them. And it has consequences. If I don't get my chores done, this is what happens to the tablet. And usually you can reason with kids like that are at that age where they can plan their time, they are willing to work with you, and they do have chores and homework and things they've got to get done. If it's a smaller child, you just need to say, from hours to this hours to this hours, there is nothing. I've seen people in my church who hand their kid a tablet during church service. They're just using it as a substitute surrogate for babysitting, preoccupying, and that child is, well, first of all, their eyes are going to get shot because the tablet's like right here at night, in a dark church. That's not going to work. So we need to just be the pilot and say, this is when your hours, and these you don't get it. And then consequences is the biggest thing. You have to have an enforcement mechanism. So if those dishes didn't get emptied out of the dishwasher, there's no tablet tonight. Well, that'll work for just a while, but then at some point that kid needs a phone, don't they? So the other thing is regulating that phone. So I've got family members who have lots of regulations on that phone that keeps that kid, it's just a phone. It doesn't have access to social media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they have found ways to do an end run around that. And as your children get older and they're doing sleepovers at someone else's house, they have a tablet. Mom and Dad, how come I don't have one? Jimmy just got a new iPad Pro. Why don't I have one? So you're going to be dealing with that as well. And then there's stuff that's also on the family computer. And I always say, have your family computer in the family room where everyone can see what Johnny is looking at. So there's a variety of things, but it's an uphill battle, isn't it? And it all takes two parents. And I've got single mom clients who just said, I'm overwhelmed. I've got 3 kids and the laundry still needs to get done. I have no partner to hand this off to. And Is that an excuse or is that reality?
Yeah.
That's what I hear a lot
So
of.
what's healthier? I know my style, again, was, well, I'm dad. And so that's just the way it is.
Yep.
And a lot of times I was a why kid. Why? Not because I was rebellious with why, because I genuinely just was a sponge. Why? I want to know. I want to know. I want to know. And it was, for me mentally, it was good to understand the why, going in there. But
Mm-hmm.
what's typically better for the kid? Is it, hey, Johnny's got the brand new iPad. Why don't I have the brand new iPad? Why would they get to
Mm-hmm.
use their phone all day? Why don't I
Yeah.
get to? What's
Yeah.
healthier for the kid? The parent that just says because I said so, or to try to reason with the kid?
Yeah.
What's the better
Age.
outcome?
But age bracket, are they at the age where if you sat them down and said, "This is what I learned on the news. This is what I show on a YouTube video that a doctor says about the problem with your thumbs going like this all the time." Tell them that. Tell them what it does to your eyesight, and say, "This is why I'm saying no. I'm not being a hard ass. That's what you need to know." And the addictive qualities of the algorithms that are being used now on people without even realizing that they're being, taken for a ride on this. I would reason with them that way. If it's a child that just is too young and you can't reason with them, and you want to save that for later, then save it for
Mm.
later. But just do it because I said so and not give them any reason may just make you the big bad wolf, and they just hate your guts even more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, there's that. It's going to be tough no matter what.
yeah. So anything else? I mean, we've got probably about 10 or 15 minutes. So I know that we've talked a lot about just kind of the counseling and that side of the world, but there's a lot going on politically, and you're involved with Magic Valley Liberty Alliance.
Yep.
What do people need to know just in the next 10 or 15 minutes that's going on politically around the state that you think are
Yep.
the real hot button
Okay.
issues?
I think something that has really changed the landscape going into 2026 May primary. As you know, we have our fabulous four, the Magic Valley Miracle of the legislators that won in the primary and beat out the Republican in name only establishment. Glenita kept her seat as senator. Um, and then what we're seeing now is, and we're anticipating will be some challengers both on the Democrat side and the Republican side, establishment side. So we haven't seen anything yet on the landscape for that, but we're kind of looking for it. We're anticipating it. Some things I would just tell folks that you may not know or that's under the radar. And that was the No Kings rally that took place on Flag Day in June. Do you remember that, Shane?
Oh yeah.
And yep, and it was also I think Trump's birthday. Well, guess who showed up? A lot of No Kings protesters, about 300, I would say, in front of the Twin Falls County Courthouse. And why I bring that up is the first time that I think we've seen direct opponents or opposition to MVLA and anyone who, and also those evil Christian nationalists
Yeah.
and all the rest. These are the folks that are really more global in their efforts. Trump is just in the way of bringing forth a globalist agenda. And so what we have now is a globalist agenda affecting local politics. I think
Mm.
we as Idahoans like to think of ourselves as, well, that happens in San Francisco. That's a LA problem, the riots. And yes, we don't have the riot. We did not have riots, and they all behaved themselves just fine. It was a peaceful rally. So glad the organizers kept that way. But there is a Indivisible. That's the name of the organization that was the mechanism behind No Kings. You can find it an article on that and where all this money's coming from.
Mm.
It's not in state; it's out of state, and there's socialists and communists behind all of that. So what's the end game there? Is to move the debate, and I think this will show itself up in 2026. Is they will brand our folks as MAGAs and as Christian nationalists, and they're going to use that as a talking point to go after their character, their political stance, and so on and so forth. They're not the only ones. So now you have Mormon Women for, I can't remember the name of it, but that is the Save Our Schools issue. And, they're going to say things like the MAGA candidates want to give public money to private schools, and this is bad. We need to save our schools and take it back from the MAGA people and so forth. So you're going to see more and more of those kinds of things gearing up. That's what I urge people to go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter. So our website is mvlibertyalliance.org. That's M and V, libertyalliance.org. And up will pop a chance to sign up for our newsletter. Should share somewhere. It'll come up somewhere. And there you go. There's the SOS. And you can also see how the other thing you'd like to notice is the things going on with our voter record. We collected all the voting records from all the legislative districts in the Magic Valley, 24, 25, 26, and 27. And on there, you'll see who voted, how they really voted, and you'll see the stark difference between the folks that we were very happy to have elected and how the rhinos. So we really got our work cut out for us. We're more purple than people realize. And one of the other things that's really kind of disconcerting, no matter how hard our conservatives try, is to not grow government. And there's a lot of articles at Glenita on her Substack, Glenita Ziderveld. You can go there and she will show you the charts, show you the receipts of how there was a lot of talk about Idaho Doge, but nothing really substantial happened. So that's where the executive branch is really pushing for more and more programs. That's how we get more federal dollars. And our dependence on federal dollars in Idaho is more so than, say, California. And we rank higher in dependency. So when you see our governor saying we balanced the budget, no, we didn't. We didn't balance our budget. No. We depended on the federal dollars. That's a really big deal. And I think that's one of the main things that I'm proud of about our legislators here in the Magic Valley, that are conservatives. They just voted no on that stuff, while the others are just rubber stamping it, maybe thinking they're garnering favor with the higher ups in the executive branch. I don't know. Only they know. But those are big deals going on. So yes, that's the stuff that we're keeping an eye on. We're looking for candidates. We want to see, now we have a vetting process that we would be looking at. And before we would want to go any further with that. And I am the chair of Magic Valley Liberty Alliance PAC, a political action committee. So you can go to mvlapac.com and you will see the website there. And you'll notice there's Substack articles from Ziderveld and Levitt and others. You can see who we're endorsing. We also have a newsletter. There it is. That's the one that would be also for MVLA. And you can sign up and find out what's going on with the latest and greatest. We are right now on July 4th to the right. You click on that. We're trying to raise for 1776. We're trying to raise $1,776. That will go to helping our candidates have a successful primary. We also have an endorsement page. You can see we have newcomer Lyle Johnstone is running against Rhino of the Year, Jack Nelson.
Yeah.
For his voting record is just like his counterpart, Democrat. And Leslie Wolf, who is running for assessor.
Wonderful. And I did find, speaking of your artwork, if you on the Magic Valley mvlibertyalliance.org page, some of Hilber's artwork is right here. So I noticed that some of your political artwork.
Yeah, that one with the wake up is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the bigger issues too, is we have a sleeping church. They may be awake, but they don't have their armor on, and those the imagery of those carrying the flags over the hill is the same. And you see now communism really lining up with Islam and the rainbow ideology are really working together in tandem because they all want the same thing, and that is to blade down our current system. And so Indivisible, I don't want to make too much of Indivisible's presence, but think of what they were able to accomplish. 2,000 cities on the same day, funded by NGOs, and able to muster 300 people at our count courthouse. I did see a number of Boise license plates with that, but I did not see bus loads. But it wouldn't surprise me if there was some of that. And they have now a permanent Twin Falls County chapter, and there'll probably be someone that will be running for office out of that. So that is the kind of the left-wing version of MBLA, and they are here, and they're taking it very seriously.
What's
we can't be like the old man under the tree, just sleeping and let someone else do it.
What's sad to see is the local businesses that are donating to Indivisible and to Magic Valley Pride, the Pride events and stuff. I mean, a lot of with the Magic Valley Pride Parade, Glanbia. I'm going to make a lot of people mad by pointing that out, but if you don't want people to know about it, don't donate. But I mean, they gave a lot of money in the beginnings of that. So it's just sad to see the businesses that are involved in bringing hedonism and debauchery into the Magic Valley. Yeah, that's what it boils down to is just hedonism and debauchery. From what I've seen, it's just a bunch of people who want to do whatever they want and flaunt it in front of everybody. And it's childish rebellion that's just manifesting itself in adults.
We really have to be on our game. We need to have a counter. Being silent and just praying in your church, that's a good thing to do, to pray, certainly. But we also need to be hands and feet and boots to the ground and really support the candidates that are running. They're sticking their necks out. They're putting big bullseyes on them. You heard about the threats that Dorothy Moon, the chair of the Idaho GOP, got on her phone. You can find that. It's happening. So it's here. If you're fooling yourself, or you think that isn't going to happen here because we're Idaho, just ask Lebanon. Ask Iran before the Shah fell. Look at the pictures of how Iran used to be before just a small group of radicals took their religion, politicized it, weaponized it, and now reign with terror. And that can happen in the United States. And you look at Mamdani, the socialist Muslim running for New York City mayor. Listen carefully and take him seriously, and listen who is already supporting him. That is a takeover of the good old boy Democrat Party. That's not your father's Democrat Party. And the party leaders are shaking in their boots because they used to be able to count on the working blue collar class that would always vote for the Andrew Cuomos. They always had a shoe in with that. Guess what happened? Yeah, young, white, college grads who were indoctrinated, not educated in their universities, have gone radical, and they now are the new voting base. Well, we've got that going on here already. So it's here. It's starting there, but it's making its way here. So it's time to wake up and take this stuff seriously.
You know, getting back over to this piece of artwork, it was kind of rattling around in the back of my mind. Immediately, James 2 comes to mind. I think it's verse 14. Faith without works is dead. So you talked about a lot of them that wanted to just pray. They pray, hey, God, please help me, please help me, please help me. My biological father told me, and it's an old story. It's one that it's nothing that he just came up with, but it's just that it's like the guy that's sitting out on his porch and the rains start coming down and the floods are coming and the guys come up to him and, hey, come on, get over here in the pickup. We're going to get you out of here. The floods are coming. Oh, you just go on ahead. God's going to take care of me. A little while later, we find the same guy sitting up on top of the porch. The waters have come up and they're coming by in their rowboats, paddling around looking for their survivors. Like, hey, man, come on. We got you. We're going to save you. Come on, hop in the boat. We're going to get you out of here. You go on ahead. God's going to take care of me. A little while
Yep.
later, we find him up on the roof of his house, and the helicopters are looking for the last people out there. And they're, hey, come on, grab the ladder. We'll get you out of here. No, I have faith. Go ahead. God's going to take care of me. And he drowned, and he get to heaven, and he said, God, I trusted you. What happened? He goes, well, I sent you a 4x4 pickup truck. I sent you a boat, and I sent you a helicopter. What more were you looking for?
Are you not? Exactly.
And so it's just kind of that attitude. Well, I'm just going to have faith, and I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to have faith. I'll be fine. But they don't read James 2. Faith without works is dead. And you need to actually get involved and do something about your faith, not just pray about it. So,
for me, faith is defined as belief in action. We're actually doing something with it, just like what you're saying. Another cartoon I had is one of a church burning down on various levels, and the groups are burning it down, and the answer coming out of the church is, we're not political, we're not political, we're not political. And then the final is, the answer is, but we are.
Yeah.
And so that's another one that I'm seeing and hearing from the pulpit and elsewhere is, we're just not political. And the translation for me there is, we proclaim the lordship of Christ in all areas of life, but politics. So we have no witness there. We have nothing to say there. And the reason is, if we do say something, we're going to get a church split. We know that if we do take a stance on that, so we're going to call them political issues. My comeback is, abortion's not a political issue.
No, it's life.
It's life and death. And the trans is not a political issue. It's fought in the halls of our political arenas. But that's not what the battle is really about. And it's loving our neighbor enough to get between our kids and the groomers. Now, if we're just going to sit back and let the groomers have at it, have out our kids on social media, pride parades and the rest of us, and we sit in our churches and watch that go down on our watch, shame on us.
Absolutely. We forget just how smart Satan's been at this for a little while. We think we're pretty smart in the 50, 60, 70 years that we've been walking this earth. Well, he's been walking it since before the beginning. And he was there. He's been at this a while. He's smart. He doesn't know the date and time the way God does. God knows when he's coming back. But we also have to be on watch, because that means that every single generation, Satan has already been grooming someone to be the Antichrist. And he's already getting us ready for the Antichrist. And he's doing that in every generation. So this may or may not be the generation that he shows up, but he's already at work, and he's at work making sure there's somebody ready so that when God does come, that it's there. So right now what he's using is the political theater to get the churches to not pay attention to those things. He shames them. Trans, that's political. Just like you said. Well, abortion, that's political. Well, no, that's biblical, but they're bringing it into the political arena just to silence you, and you're letting them get away with it as a church.
Don't fall for the Islamophobe label. That's actually a psychological warfare put out by the Muslim Brotherhood, and so don't fall for that, or being this phobe or that phobe, whatever. Don't go for it. Don't swallow that. And put your faith in action. Get involved in MVLA. We've got a place for you to get involved. Let's get more good men and women into office to represent us in the city council, health boards, school boards, up at the hallowed halls of our state capitol. That's what we need. We need good people to show up. We've been negligent. The cockroaches have been running it for a long time because we haven't been there, and we have the government we deserve as a result of that. And they are our best defense between us and the laws and those that want to go globalistic. And I think globalism is probably the platform by which there'll be an antichrist system. It needs to be globalistic. And so what's going to really perpetuate that most, and I'm sorry to say, AI is probably the last ingredient. I think it's July 4th when AI.gov launches. Look that up. It's going to be running a lot. And so it's the first time there's ever been an invention that's smarter and faster than us.
Yeah.
On so many levels is AIs. And right now it looks like a really fun and cool servant. But if we're not careful, it will be our master.
In many ways, it already is, and this is near and dear to my heart because I'm in the tech industry. We had our first computer in the house in 1983, so I was learning to program and learning to write code and learning how all of that goes. And everybody said, well, the internet's going to be the Antichrist. Well, this is going to be the Antichrist. This is going to with AI, and now with quantum computing. You need to be looking up quantum computing because it is going. We think that we had a technological revolution with computers coming along. Well, then you had another one with the internet. When it came along, it created really a world-sized economy that came with the internet. With quantum computing, it's going to be able to come up with so much information so fast, we will not be able to keep up with it. And when you add quantum computing and AI together, it will start to refine itself and make itself write code for itself. And right now you have China that's driving on board. And the problem is, we can say as the United States, we don't want any part of that. That's too dangerous. Well, what's going to happen is the leaders of the United States are going to say, well, but China's using AI to drive its warfare and to protect itself. So the only way that we can protect ourselves against it is that we got to do the same thing. And to some extent, they're right, which is what's really scary. This is the first time that technology has truly scared me.
Yeah, me too. We are in an AI arms race. Trump announcing on day 2 after his inauguration of the Stargate project, which was a gift to the tech titans. And you're right, that's the same argument they use for the nuclear arms race. So now we can obliterate our world over and over with arms. Now we have the AI. It's the same argument. I get it. But the tech is moving way faster than the ethics on this one. And Glenita Siderveld talked about AI being woven into too much bill writing because we want to make sure we have human representation in our local government, not AI doing that. And you can see where that could go, where the bills are written so complex that it takes AI to understand the bill. Where does that leave now us in the way we relate to our legislators and to our laws?
But Hilber, you have to pass it so you can understand what's in it.
Yeah. Where have we heard that before? So there's all those kinds of things are coming to bear. MPLA is paying attention to it. MPLA PAC is the electioneering part. So it's where we can endorse, we can oppose candidates, we can endorse ballot initiatives like Prop 1. We were instrumental as a PAC to help defeat a Prop 1 and by wide margins in the Magic Valley. And we'll do it again if there's another kind of ballot coming up. We don't know if there is. There may be one to legalize marijuana. We shall see what's coming down the pipe. But I would encourage people to get newsletters in both, and you can donate to MVLA PAC right now. And MVLA is getting its donation button up and running on its website here pretty soon.
I have one more quick question, because we don't just this broadcast doesn't just go out in the Magic Valley. This is Idaho, True Idaho News. So in other areas around the state, I know over in Eastern Idaho, there is kind of a group forming a type of Magic Valley Liberty Alliance. And by the way, for those that are listening, Magic Valley Liberty Alliance was critical and instrumental in getting rid of the 3 or 4 terrible rhinos that we had over here and replacing them with somebody who was a good conservative candidate. And so, I would say that without MVLA, that would have never happened. So it was a big deal. We took away some of the governor's favorites over here and got them out. But there's some other groups that are forming around the state. Are you familiar with any of those? If they're in Eastern Idaho or Western Idaho, Northern Idaho, who would be good groups for people to sync up with?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I don't know names of groups, but I have heard over there in Pocatello, Idaho Falls over there's a gentleman by the name of John Crowder. And I think if you go on your internet right now, Shane, you might find from him links to groups that he might be involved in. John Crowder. I've talked with them briefly, came to our MVLA picnic and told me a little bit about um, their their efforts for the May primary, but I don't recall the details of it. But I remember being impressed with his just how far along they are in getting things lined up for 2026.
I found a little bit of information on him just in the state of Idaho elections database. It looks like he'd run for
Okay.
office over there, but
Yeah.
but I'm sure if they're over in that area, that's one way to get a hold of him.
Yeah.
Just
I
find
think
his
that's
election page.
Pocatello, and I think he has a newspaper,
Hmm.
the Chubbuck Observer. I'm just working off memory, but that would
Yeah.
be another way to
Okay.
hook up with that.
You know,
So yes,
that's what
and
we
that's a
desperately
rhino
need.
old over there. Yeah, a lot of rhinos been running the show over there for a long time on the eastern end of Idaho.
And I'll tell you this: I was there at the forming of Magic Valley Liberty Alliance. There was 6 of us sitting in a room together and started putting our heads together and saying, how are we going to do this and what do we want to do? And it starts. You got to work it backwards. You know, what's the end goal going to be? What is it that we want to affect? What do we want to get involved in? And what do we want to stay out of? And having a very clear compass on so you can set your sails and move in that direction. But that's really it for those that are in those other parts of the state. You need to organize. The left has been organizing for decades. There's tons and tons and tons of groups out there, but you need to organize. You need to get a group put together like MVLA. And I'm sure if you were to contact Hilber or anybody else over at Magic Valley Liberty Alliance, they would be more than happy to help you through that process. But you do need, if you want to fix your government, you have to get organized. You have to get together, and you have to figure out how you're going to do it. And then you need to just do it. That's one of the things. Well, what do we do? How do we? Well, sometimes you just have to stumble through it. You just have to do it and make mistakes and figure it out along the way. But you do have a great resource here with Magic Valley Liberty Alliance, and I know the folks over there, and you'd be more than happy to help them.
Absolutely. You can email us if you're thinking of running for office, wondering what that would be like, or if you are wondering, how can I fit in? How can I help with the May primary? We'll need door knockers. We need people to stuff envelopes. We need people to pitch yard signs. We need people to help us organize meet and greets, just basic everyday stuff. We take people who have one hour a month they can spare, or 1 hour a week, or 1 hour a day. It doesn't really matter. But there's great strength in numbers. It's encouraging. This is a wagon that's already rolling. Like Shane said, we formed it. We didn't know what we were going to do, but the first thing that we did was just tell the truth of the voting record, and that put us on the map. And that's been our modus operandi ever since. Just tell the truth of how your legislators are voting. Says it all. So we don't engage in smearing. We don't do name calling. We don't do the tactics that you see. But you're also right, Shane, that the left has very well organized. I have to give them credit where credit is due. They get behind a candidate. They're like bees in a hive, and they work it. And they do it. They get themselves on school boards and city councils. You're seeing that now with the Muslim Socialist Access. That's what they're doing. They took over Dearborn, Michigan. Look it up. So it's happening all over, and like I said, indivisible is here. So we have our work cut out for us. So yes, we need people to roll up their sleeves, put their faith into action, and stop saying we're not political.
I was trying to bring up really quick your MVLA voter guide just to show what they did. You can get on there. Oh, here to see it right now. So let's see if I can pull this up really fast. I think you're right. The voter guide that went out was absolutely instrumental. So in the middle, they went through this. It was a guide that everybody handed out, and page after page, it talked about the candidates, and then in the middle was a spread, and all it did is says, here's your candidates, here's the issues, and here's how they voted on those issues. And as those were going around, a lot of people were shocked just to see how some of their how their representatives were representing the wrong side. on most of the very key issues. And I think that it's just sunshine. That's really what it boils down to, is just putting sunshine. And and the darkness doesn't like sunshine.
We did that too for just the 2025 session. I think on our website you can find the voter record. So it includes Hostetler and Levitt and Cole and Zeiderveld, but it also includes all the other Magic Valley legislators on all 4 districts. And it just shows how they voted on these key issues. And it's pretty shocking. Jack Nelson won the MVLA Rhino of the Year award for his voting record, which is no different than his counterpart, Democrat Ron Taylor. So that's what we did. We went through it for the fine-tooth comb, and yep, there's Jack Nelson's. Thank you, Jack. Well earned. And then you can see, if you keep scrolling down, that's what he voted against. And now, as you see, we really do have an MVLA voting record available on our website. I'm trying to find it here on you probably can find it faster than I can, but it's there on our website, 2 pages of it.
Wow.
So yeah,
I was just reading some of these. Voted against prohibiting mask mandates, voted against the Idaho Medical Freedom Act, voted against eliminating DEI in higher education, voted against Dr. Fauci being prosecuted for COVID crimes against Idahoans, voted against prohibiting gender identity and sexual orientation instruction, voted against defining marriage. Are these conservative values? I think all of these are conservative values that he voted against. So, I mean, really, he's voting against conservative values. So, Hilber, we're sitting at, I think we've made it about an hour and 15 minutes here. So probably.
I thought we were just warming up.
It feels like it. I could do this all day long with you, but I doubt that the folks that are watching right now could handle that. So,
Right.
Hilber, we'll get you on here again. It is, and maybe next time we'll make the focus of that what's going on with MVLA, is maybe we get a little bit closer to the big party.
Especially MVLA PAC is going to be instrumental for the May primary. I think sometime in February, when people are back from their vacations and they're not thinking fireworks and hot dogs anymore, and we've got contenders rolling in, and Indivisible is on the roll, we'll have a lot more to talk about.
So thank you so much. And folks, on that note, if you are in Northern Idaho, we urge you just to not get caught up in the conspiracy theories, not get caught up in the hate and the banter back and forth, and wrap your arms around both the family of that boy. They need support, and around the families of the firemen that just were tragically and needlessly killed. They expect, firemen expect that they may die in a fire someday trying to protect somebody from that fire. What they don't expect is when they're out there trying to protect the community from fire, for some mentally ill individual to start shooting at them. So those families are going to need help. And there's another fireman that's, I believe, is fighting for his life right now. Anything that you can do, I'm sure those families are going to need financial help as well as emotional help. And so we urge you to help them with that. And we'll see you back.